And welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, federal government insists there will be no payment of ransom to rescue kidnapped victims in the country. The National Security Advisor meets with service chiefs, northern governors over rising cases of kidnappings and abductions in the country. The Senate suspends Abdul Ningi, senator representing Bauchi Central Senatorial District, for 3 months over budget padding claims. Plus, talks open between Ethiopia and Tigray authorities to end delays in implementing the Pretoria Peace Agreement. We begin News Round with the federal government reaffirmation of its stance that it will not pay any dime for the rescue of all those kidnapped in Kaduna, Sokoto, Borno, and other states. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, said this after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Mr. Idris maintained that President Bola Tinubu also reiterated his directive to the military to ensure that the victims are rescued and brought back safely to their homes.
It's the third federal executive meeting of the year, and it starts with the swearing-in of the new commissioners of the National Population Commission. President Bola Tinubu is presiding over the ceremony as the commissioners step forward in batches for the exercise. After the ceremony, the council meeting moves into a closed-door session. A recent spate of abductions in the northern part of the country features during the meeting.
We are seeing some kind of movement by the more the security agencies are also hitting these targets, the targets of criminals, the more they are pushed to also getting some soft targets. But government is not taking any excuses. The president has directed that security agencies must, as a matter of urgency, ensure that these children and all those who have been kidnapped are brought back in safety, and government is not paying anybody any dime, and the government is optimistic that these children and other people that are abducted will be brought back to their families in safety.
The Minister of Agriculture gave an update on the federal government's distribution of grains across the country.
We're distributing to state capitals in the first instance now. As you all are aware, the risks involved in vandalization of foodstuff in transit. So we're working assiduously with the Office of the National Security Advisor and the DSS and the police. And as I can assure you, we have started distributing, especially in the northwest, with northwestern states. We're distributing out of 7 points.
Council also approved the setting up of a $2 billion fund for a 120-kilometer fiber optic cable across the country.
The president is giving the go-ahead for us to source funds for that. So we are in the process of setting up a $2 billion fund. I said it costs less than $1 billion. But the reason why we're setting up the $2 billion fund is to use the balance to drive down the cost of connectivity in the country. We want to ensure that all schools are connected, all hospitals in the country that they are connected, and also all government facilities as well.
The Minister of Works also addressed concerns that his push for companies to build concrete roads could be responsible for the rising cost of cement.
The policy has not even taken off very well, because you should ask yourself how many roads today are being done on concrete. But the truth remains that with the cost of bitumen now, contractors are begging that their projects should be reviewed on concrete.
State House correspondents were also informed that the president is not stopping or suspending the student loan scheme, but that the scheme is being revamped and a new date will be announced for its launch. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
And the Minister of Police Affairs, Mr. Ibrahim Gaidam, is challenging men of the Nigerian police to take the fight to the doorsteps of the enemy by seeking out their hideouts, disrupting their operations, and dismantling their networks. Mr. Gaidam, who gave the challenge during his visit to the force headquarters in Abuja, maintains that all enemies of peace in the country should no longer be given opportunity to strike first.
7 months after his appointment, the Minister of Police Affairs leads the ministry's management team to the force headquarters. As expected, managing the nation's security challenge dominates the conversation as the minister charges the police to be more aggressive in the fight against criminals, terrorists, and enemies of the state. Within the last 2 weeks, over 500 persons have been kidnapped in parts of the country. 287 students were kidnapped on the 7th of March in Kaduna, and on the 8th, another 200 internally displaced persons were kidnapped in Gamborun Gala in Borno State. Sokoto State witnessed its own share on the 9th of March, with 15 students abducted and another 2 in Katsina.
In our fight against these enemies of peace, we must embrace a new strategy, a strategy of proactivity and aggression. We must no longer wait for the enemy to strike, but instead we must take the fight to their very doorstep. We must seek out their hideouts, disrupt their operations, and dismantle their networks, peace and flex. Being on the defensive has only emboldened our enemies and allowed them to grow together, stronger. It is time for us to change the narrative to shift the balance of power in our favor.
The Minister of State for Police Affairs wants the police chief to ensure effective implementation of the Safe School Environment policy.
We're working day and night with the speed of light to ensure that they get what is due to them so that they can be able to do more for the country. Because once we get policing right, then we have solved over 50% of the problems in this country.
The Inspector General of Police is optimistic that the battle against the insurgents will be won.
Ministry and the police have had very robust relationship in the past. I want to assure you, Excellency, that we are committed to this robust relationship. We will continue to partner with your ministry and ensure that the good of democracy is delivered to members of the public.
The ministry is promising continued collaboration with the police to create an improved welfare, training and supportive environment for the professional growth of the police.
And staying with security matters, the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum and Governors of Gombe State, Mr. Mohammed Yahya, has announced plans by the forum to consider alternative options towards arresting the security situation in the north. Governor Yahya said this after a meeting with the National Security Advisor and service chiefs in Abuja. Meanwhile, the military says it is committed to rescuing all kidnapped victims and hurt, but blames school owners for failing to report cases of abduction to security agencies in time.
Against the backdrop of the rise in cases of kidnapping and abduction in the country, the National Security Advisor convened a meeting with the Northern Governors Forum and service chiefs, including the Inspector General of Police and the Commandant of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. The meeting, which held behind closed doors, lasted for over 4 hours. And after the meeting, the chairman of the forum speaks on the outcome.
Security is very topical, especially with the recent issues of kidnapping in the northwest. And we are becoming so concerned that we need to discuss, review, and possibly take alternative options to what we have been doing before so that we can have a better result.
Issues of non-kinetic approach to the fight against insurgency is also on the agenda.
We are amiable to it. In fact, that's the best way to go, because the issue is until we join the two. And already the service chiefs and all other security agencies have been doing their best trying to cover up. So what we need to do is to change style, especially adding with a non-kinetic approach, so that at the end of it, when we join the two, we'll have a better security situation in the country.
At At a separate news conference, the military vows to rescue all abducted and kidnapped victims.
Recently, cases of citizens being abducted in theaters of operations in the Northeast, Northwest, and North Central were recorded. These citizens were abducted by a brutal and bloodthirsty group that should be addressed as terrorists and not bandits. I repeat, these are terrorists and not bandits.
On the abduction of internally displaced persons in Gamburu and Gala in Borno State, the military explains that they went beyond permissible distance from the camp.
I will add that one thing I see common in most of the abduction cases that occurred was that the military was not given prior notice and notified on time in order for us to embark on a quick intervention of a search and rescue effort. What I can assure is that we will not rest until all of these hostages are returned.
Although the military has vowed to rescue all abducted and kidnapped victims unhurt, it says the delay in reporting such incidents is hampering quick response from security agencies and other responders.
Meanwhile, a bill to amend the Students' Loan Act has scaled second reading in the Senate. This follows a correspondence by President Bola Tinubu to the Senate seeking the repeal of the existing law and the enactment of a fresh bill. This request comes a day after the announcement of a temporary suspension of the commencement of a student loan system which would allow students of tertiary institutions access low-interest loans to complete their studies.
A correspondence from President Bola Tinubu seeking the reenactment of the Students' Loan Law was one of the major highlights on the last plenary session of the Senate for the week.
Yours sincerely, Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
It's an executive bill seeking low-interest loans for students of tertiary institutions to complete their studies.
While we have this student loan scheme, there are rules and procedures that must be followed to the latter so that the beneficiary will not see it as a free gift, but we know that it's a loan to be paid in the future.
If anything, this 10th Senate must do is to speedily pass this bill, with student loans being accessible and possible for students in our nation.
A bill for an act to repeal the Students' Loans Access to Higher Education Act 2023, second reading taken.
Again, another correspondence by President Tinubu is read and debated.
The Honourable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has prepared the 2024 statutory budget proposals of the FCTA, which is forwarded herewith for consideration and approval.
Without any dissenting vote, the 1.14 trillion naira FCT appropriation bill 2024 passes second reading.
This bill is now read for the second time.
It is referred to the Committee on the FCT to report back on the next legislative sitting.
And FCT area councils and ancillary matters will be brought back on the next legislative date.
Meanwhile, 48 hours after the suspension of Senator Abdul Ningi and his subsequent resignation as the chairman of the Northern Senators Forum, the president of the Senate announces a replacement.
Senator Yaradua, congratulations as the new chairman of Northern Senators Forum. A new spokesman for the Northern Senators Forum has also been elected in the person of distinguished Senator Tahi Mohammed Mongunu.
The newly appointed chair promises to foster the interest of Nigeria as well as the development of the North. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Well, following the allegation of purported padding of the 2024 budget by the senator representing Bauchi Central, Senator Abdul Ningi, the Senate, under the leadership of Senate President Godswill Akpabio on Tuesday, suspended Mr. Ningi. Senator Akpabio, who described Ningi's offences as grievous, conducted a voice vote during which most of the lawmakers voted in support of Ningi's suspension for 3 months.
It all began with this controversial interview granted by a lawmaker from Bauchi Central's Senator Abdul Ningi to the BBC Hausa, suggesting that 3 trillion naira from the 2024 budget might have been padded. The interview sparked a huge debate, and so when plenary resumed, it was not the usual.
Page 693.
A motion is raised on a matter of urgent importance by the chairman of the Senate committee in charge of the budget. He reads part of the transcripts from the controversial Hausa interview.
Apart from what the National Assembly did on the floor, there was another budget that was done underground which we didn't know. And I have the documents.
The man in the eye of the storm jostled to speak to defend himself.
My attention was called to this particular forward submission. And we chatted. Myself, Senator Dab, Senator Karimi, Senator Medoki. And they showed their anger about this particular statement. And I said, listen to the Hausa Virgin. In the Hausa Virgin, did you hear me mention Akpabio's name? Did you hear me mention padding? We discovered some senatorial districts in this particular document. Some senatorial districts have up to 120 billion. And my senatorial district has just 2 billion.
The lawmakers also have a bone to pick with Senator Sumaila Kawu from Kano State.
We are not in any way intent to undermine either as a president, Senate president, or the Senate. We are matured enough.
Use your mic and read out what you posted.
Apparently, we discovered 3 trillion was inserted into the budget without location. I am not the originator and I am not the maker of this.
Look at the content, look at the English. Is it senators? Is that our quality? We will deal with the issue of the Senate of the budget, but we have to also deal with our ethical standard in the Senate.
We are going forth and back on these issues and coming up with issues of the budget and individual issues concerning what came to our various constituencies. If we want to go into those issues, all of us are culpable. Some senators here, so-called senior senators, got 500 million each. I am a ranking senator, I didn't get. Did I go to the press?
The lawmaker had struck a chord as the Senate immediately descended into a rowdy session before the Senate president restores calm by invoking the Senate's rules.
The Senate, or if it is in the committee, shall be silent so that the president of the Senate, or sitting as chairman, may be heard without any interruption.
When it was calm, Senator Jaribe quickly offers to clarify his earlier statement.
I said 500 million for projects. I was drawing from the statement Abdul Ningi made to me.
These are not trivial matters for the lawmakers, many of whom sought apologies or penalty for what they described as outright falsehood.
If one lacks integrity, and we are found to associate with anyone who lacks integrity, they say it is birds of the same feathers that flock together. The confidence of the Nigerian people in the institution of the National Assembly. The way to go, in my view, is for both of them to recount what they have said and to say that they didn't say so, or if they said so, that they made a mistake of the head, not of the heart, and ask that they be forgiven.
We must do the right thing. Rather than pandering to our egos and the rest of them, I think we should do the right thing by tendering an unreserved, unconditional apology to the Senate.
I stand with due respect to say that what my big brother, distinguished Senator Abdul Ningi, who I respect so well, planned to do or set out to do was tantamount to a civilian coup, which has failed. And in doing this, he wanted to use the platform of Northern Senators Forum. I'm also speaking as a Southerner. For the first time, the attempt to take the election of the leadership of this Senate beyond June 13, 2023 must stop. Mr. President, sitting as chair, make no mistake about it. A few people who felt they will not give you more than 1 year to spend in this chair want to do everything possible before the 13th of June to remove you. I am not protesting. If I got anything here, it is not money put in my pocket. They are constituency projects given to my constituency. And I'm not apologetic about it. Mr. President, please let us go into the prayers and do the right thing.
My first prayer is that the Senate should suspend Senator Abdul Ningi for an initial period of 12 months.
Again, a rowdy session ensued over the length of the suspension before leniency prevails.
Civil Senator Abdul Ningi of Bauchi Central, having posted falsehood through his interview on BBC Hausa Service and other media, B, and is hereby suspended from all activities of the Senate, including being found within the precincts of the Senate for the next 3 months.
The Senate now awaits a written apology from the suspended Senator Abdul Ningi from Bauchi Central any moment from now, which will be considered on the next legislative sitting. Now, it's not clear whether or not he will actually apologize or seek redress in court like other lawmakers in the past. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Nigeria has huge potential in the production and export of cowpea and sesame, but the rejection of the products owing to their poor storage and transportation to other parts of the world remain a huge challenge. These are the words of the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who was speaking at the launch of the Standards Trade Development Facility in Abuja.
Top dignitaries converge on Abuja to mark a major milestone in the history of the country as it taps into the initiatives of the World Trade Organization to boost its trade using platforms and interventions that will accelerate its export and trade potentials. The Director General of the World Trade Organization lists some of its interventions that can benefit Nigeria.
The new project aims to build the capacity of stakeholders across the sesame and cowpeas value chains to better understand market access requirements, to improve agricultural practices such as pesticide application, hygiene techniques, harvest and post-harvest methods, and food safety.
Figures from the Nigeria Export Promotion Council shows that Nigeria is the third largest producer of sesame in Africa, with approximately 500 metric tons produced in 2022 and also produced over 5.2 metric tons of dried cowpea annually. Unfortunately, these two products top the list of export rejects from Nigeria. The Standard Trade Development Facility is a global initiative that seeks to strengthen food safety, animal and plant health capacity in developing countries by encouraging the use of good practices.
To increase the acceptability of Nigerian goods across the globe, Nigeria has also launched the Nigerian National Quality Program under the Office of the SGF, and this is to raise the standard of Nigerian goods. This policy seeks to create the necessary infrastructure that will enhance the trust and acceptability of Nigerian products and services at international markets.
This project, STDF 845, will therefore enhance the quality and standard of sesame and cowpea through the institution of good sanitary and phytosanitary conduct, good agricultural and warehousing practices, good packaging and labeling, and also storage system. All these are expected to forestall frequent contract cancellations and loss of business opportunities.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is excited at the intervention by the World Trade Organization and promises that the federal government will make the business environment conducive for all.
Nigeria remains a leading regional economy with a huge population, market, and other potentials. I assure you all that no stone will be left unturned by this administration to put in place robust and dynamic policies as well as legislations to actualize the objectives of the support we're receiving from the WTO, the International Trade Center, and the World Bank.
More collaboration is expected between the federal government, the World Trade Organization, and the International Trade Center. This is expected to evolve into the establishment of trade intelligence units to provide trade data and information for the country. Sarah Chimugu, Channels Television News.
And to end news round, representatives from Ethiopia's federal government and the Tigray regional state have started talks in Addis Ababa to end the delays in implementing the Pretoria Peace Agreement. The deal brokered between the two parties and signed in South Africa in November 2022 aims to bring stability to the region after the conflict between the Tigray People's Liberation Front and the federal government that started in November 2020. Kenya's ex-president Uhuru Kenyatta and Nigeria's ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo are among the mediating team. And that's News Round for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladu Williams. Bye-bye.